I am back. I was kind of inspired to make another video. I'm in the middle of getting some stuff together for my next tournament at Sam Rayburn. Even though it's about a month or so away, the wheels are still turning, and I'm just starting to get a lot of my stuff, kind of organized and in order, and taking inventory and see if I need to order anything and shit like that. And I was kind of inspired because I was in the middle of messing with my topwater rod, and I wanted to show you guys what I run for a topwater rod, specifically walking style baits, big Zara spooks, Yozuri walkers, pencil baits, things like that. And it's not what a lot of people use for a topwater rod. And yeah, so I'll just show it to you. This is my topwater rod. I don't throw top waters on let me back that up. I don't throw big walking baits on a bait caster. And there's two reasons why I do this. So the common notion with big top waters, like, big Zara spooks and things like that, is that you need like a 7.2 to a 7.4, maybe even a 7.6 if you're a taller guy. Like a big medium heavy, something that's kind of parabolic that can load up really good, and big reel, like a 200 size with like 30-pound braid, like 30 or 40, which I used to use, and there's nothing wrong with that setup. But the thing that I found for me personally, and this is what I'm talking about, try not to be closed-minded and find out things that work for you. It's going to make you a much better fisherman. Is that the thing that I found out specifically with like fishing tournaments, is that your adrenaline is so high and everything is so pumped up because you're looking at the clock, you're trying to focus on your game plan. Now, you're already pumped up. Now throw schooling fish on top of that. So if you find schoolers out behind you or something and they're a long cast away, it's really hard to pick that rod up and make a big old hee-haw cast and not have that braid dig in and see your lure go flying to the moon. That was my problem. So like anytime that situation would happen, I would actually have to force myself to calm down a little bit and make a better cast and not blow my reel up with that thin braid, because it's notorious for that. Now, with that being said, I do run that 30 to 40 pound braid setup on my topwater poppers, and that's probably about all I throw on that lighter braid on bait casters, because like I said, it's notorious for digging. For me personally, I can't make a big hard cast with that really thin diameter braid. And I've used a bunch of them. I'm not, like I said, I'm not sponsored by anybody. I've used everybody's. I mean, Daiwa's J-Braid, I've used Power Pearl, I've used Spider Wire, I've used them all. And they kind of, for me personally, I kind of can't get away from that. It's gonna dig. And I was fishing with Wyatt Frankens. I drew him twice so far in BFL. Shout out to Wyatt, he's awesome. He's a guide on Rayburn. Dude is a stick, super nice guy to fish with, and very knowledgeable. Probably one of the most, thinking about it, it's probably the most serious fisherman I've ever fished with, and I learned a lot from him the 2 times I went with him. But anyways, I drew him at the tournament before last, and I had my topwater rod laying there because I was a co-angler. I'm in the process right now of securing a boat. Fingers crossed, probably next month. That's another story. But he was looking at my topwater rod, my spinner rod, and he's like, "Man, you got a topwater title on that?" And I said, "Yeah." And he was, "Why?" And this is what I told him. I said, "Dude," I said, "on my spinning rod, this is a Daiwa 7.3 Tatula. And it says it's meant for small swim baits and drop shots and things like that. And I think it's a medium. It is a medium. Lure weight is up to 3/8. That's really, honestly, that's what I'm telling you, is that that's kind of, I would say, do pay attention to that to an extent, but kind of don't at the same time, because you want something that's going to work for you. I've thrown big giant Zara spooks on this rod. Even if I'm going speckle trout fishing, I'll throw a 4 horseman popping cork on this rod with no issues. That weighs way more than 3/8 ounces, especially when you put a soft plastic underneath it and blah, 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 blah. Anyways, but I told him, I said, if you want to be able to have a topwater rod, especially this time of year, like we're going into late summer, early fall, if you got to have a topwater with the trigger with the safety off of it, like ready to throw at a moment's notice, because they can come up schooling anytime. With this setup, you can pick this up and fire as far as, I mean, you think you can cast far with a bait caster. This is ridiculous. Now, my setup is a 2500 or a 3000 size reel with a 7.3 to a 7.4 medium spinning rod. But I throw a 15-pound braid on this with like a short section of mono, probably about, you know, a foot, foot and a half, just like you would on your bait caster. But the thing is that you can make extremely long casts with that super light braid. I've even run 10-pound braid on this, as long as you got a good leader. If I do go that light on braid, I'll run a little bit longer of a mono leader. That way it's a little bit of a shock absorber for the bigger baits. But most times it's 15-pound braid to around a 15-pound mono leader. And but you can throw it super far, and you don't have to worry about the braid digging it on stuff. You can just pick it up and throw as hard as you can, especially if you got a little bit of a tailwind. Dude, you can reach out and touch them with this. And also, since it's, you know, you got that light braid and all, and you're fishing with treble hooks, you can back off on that drag, and you can play the fish pretty well, instead of trying to, maybe I shouldn't say horseman, but kind of dog them in on a bait cast setup. So, and it's helped me a lot. I fished an event, it was a Bassmaster Open as a co-angler at Douglas Lake, and we were catching smallmouth, and they came up school behind us, and I picked that rod up and I fired it way out there. And I did that 2 days in a row, and I wound up getting a good finish. And I wouldn't have caught those fish if it wasn't for that setup. So don't be so, you know, locked in like, oh, this is what this pro says, so that's what I have to use. No, that pro is saying that because that setup works for him. And if you can find something that works for you, you're going to be a lot better off. Also, as far as baits go, that's another thing. Everybody talks about, like Big Zara spooks and sexy dogs and 6 Sense, you know, catwalks, and which are all, I use them all. That's great baits, but sometimes it helps to think outside the box a little bit. So me personally, my next tournament is a super tournament at Rayburn. Now Rayburn and Toledo and all those kind of Texas lakes, they're full of big gizzard shad, they're full of threadfin, but the other thing that they're full of, and I think people don't really think about it all that often, are white bass and hybrids. And those big bass love to key in on those little small hybrid bass. And my bait selection goes with that. So this is a saltwater bait. This is a Yozuri, I honestly forget the name of it. It's a pencil, whatever. You get the gist. But this is a saltwater bait. It's meant for inshore fish, for trout and reds. It's supposed to be, you know, the coloration of a mullet. With that yellow back though, and those stripes, that looks just like a little hybrid bass. And the only thing I did was I swapped out the treble hooks on it, because it comes with stainless steel trebles. I just swapped them out for really good, you know, freshwater style black trebles. But, and I've caught quite a few bass on these. And, but yeah, so don't be so, you know, find what works for you. I don't know. I just wanted to share that with you. I hope that makes you a better fisherman. And if you guys need any gear, go check out Pugula Sporting Goods, 1925 Veterans Boulevard, Metairie. Talk to Anthony, talk to Angel, talk to Justin. They will hook you up. Thanks. Bye.